Now, most of us experience anxiety at some time or another. You might be someone who gets anxious just occasionally before big meetings or talking in public, or you might notice yourself feeling anxious on a regular basis, maybe whilst at work, juggling day-to-day life, or going into social situations. Some people experience anxiety every day, and if that is you, then this conversation is going to be really important. Because what I'm talking about in this video is that frequent, recurring anxiety that you experience often. And if you struggle with that, I know there's a high chance that you look forward to drinking as a way to reduce that anxiety or maybe turn it off. Perhaps after a day of feeling tense and anxious, you just want to open a bottle to make it all go away. I've worked with so many clients who struggle with anxiety all day and just really look forward to opening a bottle in the evening to help them ease that anxiety. They just want that, relief and reward at the end of the day. If you can relate to that, I understand that it can seem as if alcohol really helps. It seems as if alcohol gives you a break from your anxiety and your worries. But what if that's not quite right? What if alcohol is actually causing your anxiety in the first place? I want you to consider that, because drinking alcohol on a regular basis has been proven to make stress and anxiety worse. Because in the long term, alcohol alters the number of neurotransmitters in your brain, and you need a certain level to ward off anxiety and depression in the first place. In fact, there was this one study where mice were trained to associate getting a mild electric shock with hearing a certain sound. So obviously they came to fear the sound after a while because they thought they were about to get a shock. But after some time, the researchers actually stopped giving the mice an electric shock to see whether they could learn to hear the sound and not be scared. So this is the interesting bit. Some of those mice were given alcohol during the test, and the mice who were given alcohol continued to fear the sound long after the shocks had actually ended. Whereas the mice who weren't drinking, they moved on and learned that they no longer needed to be scared of this particular sound because it didn't mean that a shock was coming, like nothing bad happened. And this tallies with other research that shows that heavy alcohol use does rewire the brain, making it harder to recover from stress and trauma. And just like the mice in the study who couldn't stop being scared of that sound, your brain, under the influence of alcohol, it struggles to manage and overcome anxiety. So if we take a step back here, what this really means is that whilst having a drink might give you some temporary relief, that same drink is actually going to set you up for more anxiety the next day and the next day. Like that drink is going to come back and bite you on the bum. So I want you to really think about that, because I've worked with a lot of women over the years who would say to me that they're just anxious people, full stop, just anxious. That's just who they are. But when we dig into it a bit, we start to see that actually they have been struggling with anxiety for decades, and they've also been drinking for decades too. So the two things have really gone hand in hand. And I know right now it might feel daunting to quit drinking because you're wondering just how on earth you'll cope, how you'll manage the anxiety. But what I'm trying to show you is that if you stop drinking, you might well find that your anxiety eases off anyway. That is what I experienced, and that's what so many of my clients report as well. There is a noticeable difference once you give sobriety a proper chance, and once you let alcohol get out of your system. So guess what? That's another reason to take a proper break from drinking. You want to give yourself time to adjust, because there will be a messy middle period where you are in early sobriety, You're giving your brain and body time to adjust and recover. And you're learning how to self-soothe. If you only ever stop from Monday to Friday each week, you will never get a chance to move beyond that messy middle. So you need to stop for at least 6 weeks. 6 weeks to give yourself time to discover what your anxiety looks like in sobriety. Is it reduced? By how much? And then you want that time to find some other ways to look after yourself and manage any residual anxiety that does come up. Because again, if you haven't handled anxiety sober in years, you've kind of got to be willing to be a beginner again, to try, to experiment, to test out different things. You know, you've got to give it a chance. So that's my message for you today. And I hope this video inspires you to give alcohol-free living a proper try, especially if you struggle with anxiety. And I would love to hear your experience of this in the comments below.